This is Scott Talks, and I am so grateful to have you on the show. Your conversation with Laura was lovely. Um, I think I too was moved to emotion a few times. Um, and your book is called Docile: The Memoirs of a Not So Perfect Korean. Is it Not So Perfect Girl?
Asian girl.
Asian girl.
Asian
Thank you.
girl.
I didn't
Hmm.
write that down right. And I did not read the book, but Laura read a lot of passages to me. And
Mm,
having a young artist in the family who deals with, anxiety and navigation, I think I was immediately drawn into the human journey of the book. Um,
mm,
and one of the things that stuck out in the conversation that really, first of all, I have a real intrigue for first generation immigrants. I think it's in America. I think
yeah.
um, there's something very cool about the idea that your family brings you here to America to have a better life. Usually, is the idea, and then there's typically this want to stick within the culture that they come from, but there's this natural pollination of America and American culture, and thus becomes this new journey for the first generation child, right? Like it's
Right.
impossible to stay within the cultural lane of Korea, of being from Korea and going and living in America, which immediately to me sets up this anxiety, right? And one of the things I wrote down that like to me, it's like you mentioned the model minority myth, and then I thought versus the Korean cultural expectation versus the journey to being authentic. Um, it sounds a lot of what the book is about. Is that, am I
Mhm.
correct?
Yes, that's exactly what the book is
Right,
about.
right.
My elevator pitch about Docile is it's about my journey to form an identity outside the model minority myth construct and heal myself from mental illness and find redemption in art. And it's really like that's the three points, but they kind of make a triangle because they're all connected.
Right.
But yes, absolutely, that is the point of the book.
Yeah, it's a beautiful journey. We watched some shows about immigrants that I find really intriguing. Uh, Jane the Virgin, Rami, Never Have I Ever. Are you familiar with any of these shows?
I love Never Have I Ever. I
Right.
watch it. It is so it's the Mindy Kaling show about the Indian American. She's like a second generation. She's in high
Mm-hmm.
school at Sherman Oaks
Yeah, yeah.
in California. And it's hard to watch that. I mean, it's a comedy, but it's hard to watch for me because I relate to it so much. And she's struggling so much. She's struggling with her mental health after her dad passes away in
Passes
front
away,
of
right?
her at a band concert. I was also in band, and she's one of two top students at Sherman Oaks, and they're both vying for like going to the Ivy
Yeah.
Leagues. And so yeah, I love that show. I've watched all three seasons multiple times, but it's always hard because it hits a little close to home.
Sure. I was thinking of your book as a show. Um,
Let's talk to my agent
yeah,
about
yeah.
that.
Well, I think as I open the show, as the majority, of the population, I think for me, my education a lot, like Laura asked you a number of times, it's like that show, but we learn a lot about other cultures, and I
Sure.
think the journey for a good writer is to take us through the origin story to the adaptation to the journey to the authentic person, because
Right.
I think as an adult, being in my 50s, being authentic and being myself is the gift of living, the gift of the journey for all of it. The relief comes in that journey, and the truth. I loved your conversation about the idea of success, that is now, and talking about you had some really great words for it. You were saying the measure of success is connectedness, being happy, living in your art. Was it difficult for you to find? Is it still difficult for you to be an artist and not be perfect?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great question. My husband is always like, um, I think I was talking to Laura earlier in the podcast about like the publication journey and just being a lot of like having a lot of anxiety. And he basically was like, the whole journey in the book about you finding a different measure of success and measure of happiness is something that you're reliving in the publication expectation of your book baby. He's like, you're anxious, you're trying to get to this understanding of a different kind of metric for your book, and instead of looking at, oh, this best-selling list and that thing on
Right.
Instagram and this book club pick. And it was interesting for him to sort of hold the mirror up to me and say, like, you still struggle with that. You're not done. You're a work in progress. And so, yeah, I can write this great book about, happiness and it being a quest, and enoughness and genuine connectivity, but it's something like my mental health that I have to struggle with and remind myself and work on every single day. It's like I always have to ping myself and notify myself, hey, look, you're back in this other thought process about like perfectionism and productivity and all of this stuff that like really doesn't make me happy in the end. And really, it's interesting because my mother, she had these, and maybe Laura, I don't know if Laura picked up on this when she was reading the book, but like my mom had just some really spectacular dialogue in the book. She would say stuff like, happiness is what mediocre people tell themselves that they want when
Right.
they can't really want, when they really can't get what really matters. And so she was always pitching happiness as a poor man's truth to me. She was saying that, people who really can't do well in life, who can't be a doctor, who can't be a lawyer, who can't drive a Mercedes, that's what they tell themselves they really want. And so it's interesting to go off and live wanting happiness and wanting at least contentment, maybe not happiness, but contentment, but also realizing that there was this dialogue from my mom where she was saying that's what, like, people who are not that great
Sure.
think and want.
I think your mom is not the only parent who parented. I think it was a generation of people
Totally.
who bought into this idea. I think when I turned in my 20s and I saw my father had worked himself, he provided really well for us, but he could not enjoy his quality of life at 50,
Mm.
55 that he thought he was going to get when he got there. And it clicked on me. And I think in this, recovery that I have, in this journey of recovery from alcoholism, I've realized that if you're happy, then you can get all those things. But if you're not happy, it's a struggle to gain the things you think you'll get that will give you that happiness. And it's really important, I think, as Laura said, that I hear your story so that I have more. Because even my daughter, she's at Berkeley, and I'm like, "You're an art student at Berkeley." Like that's the same thing your mom says, right? Like, what
Yeah.
is an art student at Berkeley going to do? Or,
Yeah.
and I know it's not good, but it's so deeply ingrained in us. And
Yeah.
I think I learned those things long before I was aware of them. Thank you.
Yes,
And
of course.
and unfortunately, like what I want for my kids is for them to have the realization I'm having at 55 at 20, so they can pursue what
I
makes.
love that.
Yeah, and I'm sure that that's part of your story and why you want to tell your story so that people can understand what's important and demystifying these cultural expectations.
I don't want the next generation to struggle with the same things that I did. I mean, there were so many Asian American students commit suicide.
Mm,
Um, the number one cause of death for AAPI young adults 15 to 24 is suicide.
I
I
know,
mean,
right?
nobody talks about the statistic because I guess Asian American life is not that valuable to the culture. I don't know, but I just want things to be better for them. I want people to feel like, sort of going back to this idea that we take care of ourselves mentally so that other people don't have to drop everything and
Right.
suffer and take care of us later on. But I think the flip side of it is that you have to ask for help if you're having trouble. And I think a lot of Asian American young people don't know how to ask for that because their families, they're so feeling so much stigma from mental illness.
Mm.
Asian American students, they don't use the counseling centers. They're like one of the least
Utilize. Mhm.
least likely to utilize campus health services. And then when they do, their symptoms are much more egregious than other people's that are using the campus. So it's just, it doesn't need to be that way. But it is. So I'm hoping that by writing the book that there is this, um, this message where you can get help, that this is okay, we can talk about this stuff, it is not taboo. And like Laura, very eloquently said, it's like a medical condition. You don't deserve this because you did something. That's the capitalistic mindset, that I deserve something bad because I did something not good. Like, it's
Mm.
just, that's not what it is. It's just, there's a medical component and that's what you're suffering from, and let's get you some help.
Well, I feel like your book brings awareness in a way that is entertaining and important. Like, you can't just tell people your experience. You have to have the experience to pass it on. The fact that you're an artist and you're happy and you have a book launch is beautiful. I got to be a part of Laura's book launch, and
Oh man.
it's super fun. And the other good thing about a book is it has many lives. So even though you have a launch, it'll have many times where,
I know. That's
yeah,
amazing, right? And it's
yeah,
like it has relationships in its own life in the
it is.
world. I'm so looking forward to that. That's a
Right on.
beautiful way of putting it too, Scott. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you so much. Check out the episode yesterday or Tuesday with Laura and Hyeseung. And thank you. All your information is in the show notes. And we hope to maybe get to see you if you're in this. I didn't even ask you where you are. Where are you now?
I live in New York and
Oh, okay.
I hope to come out to the West Coast in the fall. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed
Well,
about
yeah,
that.
if you do a book event, we would love to join.
That would be great.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.